Jiho Kim pressed his face against the viewport and smiled like a child seeing snow for the first time. Outside the transport ship, the Galactic Assembly Station hung in space like a massive jewel. It was bigger than any city he had ever seen on Earth. Lights flickered across its surface in patterns that seemed almost alive. Ships from dozens of alien worlds docked at various ports, each one a different shape and size. "Stop gawking," Captain Hanasong said, but her voice was kind. She stood beside him in her crisp uniform, her dark hair pulled back tight. "We need to look professional when we arrive." I know, Jiho said, pulling himself away from the window. He adjusted his own uniform and tried to look serious. It was hard. This was humanity's first real mission to meet the galaxy. They had been watching from Earth for decades, listening to alien broadcasts, learning their languages. Now they were finally here. Taeyang Park, Jiho's best friend and fellow pilot, punched him lightly on the shoulder. "Try not to embarrass us too much, okay?" "No promises," Jiho grinned. The docking process took another hour. When they finally stepped onto the station, Jiho had to stop himself from staring again. The main corridor stretched out before them, wide enough to fit 3 buses side by side. Aliens of every shape and color walked past. Some had fur, others had scales. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or more. One creature floated by without any legs at all, held up by some kind of energy field. Ambassador Nari Choi led their group through the crowds. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Remember," she said quietly, "we are here to observe and learn. No sudden movements. No touching anyone without permission. And please do not comment on anyone's appearance." Jiho bit his tongue. He wanted to comment on everything. The architecture was beautiful, all flowing curves and geometric patterns. The air smelled strange but not unpleasant, like flowers he had never encountered. Even the way light reflected off the walls seemed carefully designed. They reached the assembly hall, a circular room with seats rising up on all sides. Hundreds of aliens already sat in their designated areas. The human delegation found their assigned section near the bottom. It was not a good spot, Jiho noticed. They were newcomers, so they got the worst seats. The session began with routine business. Jiho tried to pay attention, but the translator device in his ear made everyone sound slightly mechanical. He was watching the different alien species instead, trying to learn their body language. That was when he noticed the Therians. They entered like a military unit, moving in perfect formation. Each one was tall, maybe 7 feet, with bodies that looked carved from stone. Their skin was dark gray with patterns of bioluminescent markings running across their arms, necks, and faces. These markings pulsed softly, blue and green and purple. Their eyes glowed with an inner light. They wore minimal clothing, just enough to be decent, as if they wanted everyone to see their muscled bodies and scars. The other aliens in the hall grew quiet. Some moved away from the Therians. Others watched them with what looked like fear or respect. "Who are they?" Jiho whispered to Taeyang. "The Therian Empire," Taeyang whispered back. "They are warriors. Very serious about it, too. Their whole society is based on combat and strength." The Therian commander stepped forward. He was even bigger than the others, covered in more scars. When he spoke, his voice was deep and hard. "We recognize the presence of the humans," he said. "The new species that wishes to join the assembly." Ambassador Nari stood up. "We are honored to be here, Commander Kiros. We come in peace, seeking to learn and to share." Kairos made a sound that might have been a laugh, but it held no humor. "Peace, sharing? These are weak words. In the Therian Empire, we measure worth through strength. If you wish to be taken seriously in this assembly, you must prove yourselves worthy." Nari's face remained calm, but Jiho could see her hands tighten. "What do you propose?" "Single combat," Kairos said. "Choose your champion. They will face one of ours. If your champion can stand against a Therian warrior for 5 minutes without yielding, we will accept that your species has value. If not, you will be dismissed as another weak race unworthy of our time." Murmurs ran through the assembly. Jiho looked at Captain Hana. She was already standing up, ready to volunteer. She was their best fighter, trained in multiple forms of combat. But something made Jiho stand up instead. Maybe it was the way Kiros looked at them with such contempt. Maybe it was the desire to prove that humans belonged here. Maybe he was just being stupid. "I will fight," Jiho said. Everyone turned to look at him. Captain Hana grabbed his arm. "Jiho, no. This is not a game. I know," he said. "But I want to do this. Ambassador Nari studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Very well. Pilot Kim will represent humanity. Kairos looked at Jiho like he was a bug. Your champion is this boy? You insult us with this choice. He is our choice, Nari said firmly. Kairos turned to his warriors. Valora, you will face the human. A figure stepped forward from the Therian group. She was smaller than Kiros, but still taller than any human. Her bioluminescent patterns were different, more intricate, flowing across her skin in elegant spirals. She moved like water, smooth and controlled, her eyes fixed on Jiho, and he felt like she was measuring everything about him in a single glance. The assembly moved to the combat arena, a circular platform surrounded by force fields. Jiho was given basic armor and a training sword. His hands shook slightly as he put them on. Taeyang helped him with the straps. You can still back out, Taeyang said quietly. No, I can't, Jiho replied. Not anymore. He walked onto the platform. Valora was already there, holding a sword that looked like it was made of light. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed faster now like a heartbeat. The arena fell silent. Even the air felt still. Kairos raised his hand. 5 minutes, begin. Valora moved. She was fast. Faster than Jiho expected. Her sword came at him in a blur. He barely managed to block. The impact sent vibrations up his arms. She attacked again. A series of strikes that forced him back across the platform. He defended desperately, using every trick he had learned in training. But he was not just defending. He was watching her. The way she moved was incredible. Every motion had purpose, every strike was precise. Her bioluminescent patterns flashed and swirled as she fought, creating trails of light in the air. She was not just a warrior. She was an artist painting with violence. Jiho tried a counterattack, something unusual that his instructors had taught him. It caught Valora off guard for just a second. She adjusted immediately, but that second told him something important. She had never fought someone who moved like he did. Her training was perfect, but it was also predictable. He started using more unconventional moves, things that were not in any formal combat style. Roll when you should dodge. Jump when you should duck. It was not elegant, but it kept him alive, and it made her work harder. 3 minutes passed. Then 4. Jiho was breathing hard. Sweat ran down his face. His arms hurt from blocking her strikes. But he was still standing. Valora pressed harder. She was not tired at all. Her attacks came faster, stronger. Jiho knew he could not last much longer. She drove him back until he was almost at the edge of the platform. One more step and he would be out of bounds. She came at him one more time. Their swords locked together. They stood face to face, so close he could see the details of her bioluminescent patterns. Up close they were beautiful, like living art painted across her skin. Her eyes were bright gold, intense with focus and effort. The words came out before he could stop them. Before he even knew he was going to say them. You're stunning, he whispered. Valora's eyes went wide. Her grip on her sword loosened. The weapon fell from her hand and clattered on the platform. She stepped back, staring at him like he had just spoken in a language she did not know. The arena exploded with noise. Aliens jumped to their feet. Kairos roared in anger, but Jiho barely heard any of it. He was watching Valora, watching her face as she struggled with something he could not understand. For the first time in her life, a Therian warrior had no idea what to do. The silence lasted only a second before chaos erupted. Kairos stormed onto the platform, his bioluminescent markings blazing bright red. Other Therians followed him, all of them shouting in their harsh language. The translator in Jiho's ear struggled to keep up with their anger. What trickery is this? Kairos demanded. What human weapon did you use on her? Jiho raised his hand, still holding his sword but pointing it down. No trick. I just said what I thought. Words are not weapons. Kairos turned to Valora, who still stood frozen.
Warrior!
Explain yourself. Valora blinked slowly as if waking from a dream. She looked down at her empty hands, then at her sword lying on the ground. Her bioluminescent patterns flickered in confusion. I do not know. He said something. A word I do not understand. What word? Kairos growled. Stunning, Valora said quietly. He called me stunning. The Therians looked at each other. Some activated their translation devices trying to find the meaning. Others simply looked confused. Kairos's face twisted in disgust. It is a word about appearance, one of the Therians said. About beauty. A worthless concept. Captain Hana had climbed onto the platform now, standing beside Jiho. Ambassador Nari was arguing with the assembly moderator, trying to explain what happened. Taeyang stood at the edge, looking worried but also like he was trying not to laugh. The assembly moderator, a tall alien with blue skin and too many arms, raised his voice. "Order! We must have order!" He waited for the noise to die down. This situation is unprecedented. The Therian warrior dropped her weapon of her own accord. No rules were broken. The human used psychological manipulation. Kairos insisted. He spoke, the moderator said. Speaking is not forbidden in combat. The duel stands as witnessed. The human champion survived 5 minutes against a Therian warrior. The challenge is met. Some species in the audience applauded. Others remained silent, watching the Therians carefully. Kairos looked like he wanted to challenge the ruling, but he could not. To do so would insult the assembly itself. This duel is invalid, Kairos declared instead. It will not be recorded as a true contest. The human cheated with words. He turned to Valora and his voice became cold. Return to quarters. We will discuss your failure. Valora picked up her sword slowly. She looked at Jiho one more time, her golden eyes searching his face as if looking for answers to questions she did not know how to ask. Then she turned and followed Kairos and the other Therians out of the arena. Jiho watched her go, feeling strange. He had survived. Humanity had passed the challenge. But something about the look in Valora's eyes stayed with him. Back in their quarters, the human delegation was quiet. Ambassador Nari sat at a table, her hands folded in front of her. Captain Hana paced back and forth. Taeyang sat next to Jiho, who was still in his armor. That was the strangest thing I have ever seen, Taeyang said. And I once watched a zero-gravity cat video for 3 hours. This is not a joke, Captain Hana said sharply. Jiho, what were you thinking? I was not thinking, Jiho admitted. The words just came out. She was so close and her markings were pulsing with the effort of fighting. And they made these patterns like living art. I have never seen anything like it. I just said what I felt. Ambassador Nari looked at him with an expression he could not read. Pilot Kim, do you understand what you have done? Made the Therians angry? Jiho offered. Possibly started a diplomatic crisis, Nari said, but also possibly created an opportunity. The Therians are talking. They are not simply dismissing us. For the first time, they are confused. Confusion can lead to curiosity. Captain Hana stopped pacing. You cannot be serious. We should be doing damage control, not celebrating. Both, Nari said. We do both. Captain, work with the assembly moderators. Smooth things over. Make it clear we meant no disrespect. Jiho, you stay in quarters for now. Let things calm down. In the Therian quarters, Valora sat alone in her room. The walls were bare metal, no decorations. Therians did not believe in comfort or beauty. A room was for rest and preparation, nothing more. But now, for the first time, the emptiness bothered her. She looked at her reflection in the polished metal wall. Her face stared back at her, covered in the bioluminescent patterns that marked her as a warrior. She had these patterns since she was young, bioengineered into her skin. They showed her heart rate, her adrenaline levels, her combat readiness. They were tools, nothing more. But the human had looked at them and said she was stunning. Stunning. Beautiful. Words about appearance. Worthless words, according to Therian teaching. A warrior's worth came from victories, from strength, from discipline. What you looked like meant nothing. Only what you could do mattered. So why could she not stop thinking about it? The door opened. Kairos entered without knocking. He never knocked. Explain what happened, he commanded. Valora stood at attention. Commander, I was fighting the human. He was weaker but unpredictable. I was about to finish the match when he spoke. The word confused me. I lost focus. You have fought through injuries, through exhaustion, through opponents larger and stronger than you. But a single word broke your concentration? Kairos's voice was dangerous. Yes, Commander, Valora said. There was no point lying. I do not understand why. Kiro studied her for a long moment. It is a human psychological attack. They are weak physically, so they use mental tricks. You fell for it. Because you have never encountered such tactics before, it will not happen again. No, Commander, Valora agreed, but she was not sure if she believed it. It had not felt like an attack. It had felt like something else. Something new. You are forbidden from any contact with the humans, Kairos said. They are dangerous in ways we did not expect. Stay away from them. That is an order. Yes, Commander. Kairos left. Valora sat back down and looked at her reflection again. She touched the patterns on her arm, feeling the slight warmth they produced. She had never really looked at them before. Now she saw how they spiraled and curved, how they created designs that almost looked intentional, almost looked like art. She shook her head. This was foolish. She was a warrior. The best warrior. One human word should not affect her this much, but it did. 2 days passed. The assembly continued its normal business. The humans were officially recognized as a species worthy of consideration for membership. Several other species approached them with offers of trade and cultural exchange. It seemed like the incident with the Therians was becoming just a strange story. But Jiho could not forget Valora's face when she dropped her sword. The confusion. The wonder. Like someone seeing color for the first time. He was in one of the observation decks looking out at the stars when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned and froze. Valora stood there, still in her warrior clothing. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed slowly, a calm blue. She looked uncertain, which seemed wrong on someone so strong and confident. You should not be here, Jiho said quietly. Your commander ordered you to stay away from us. I know, Valora said. Her voice was deep and precise, each word carefully formed. But I have questions. Questions I cannot ask other Therians. Questions about what you said. Jiho looked around. The observation deck was empty. What do you want to know? Valora walked closer. Even without her sword, she moved like a predator. But her eyes held no threat, only curiosity. The word you used, stunning, explain it to me. It means beautiful, Jiho said. Visually pleasing. Something that makes you stop and look because it is wonderful to see. Valora frowned. But I am a warrior. My appearance serves no function beyond identification. Your patterns, Jiho said, gesturing to her arms. They are not just functional. They are beautiful. The way they move and pulse, the colors they make. I have studied art my whole life, and I have never seen anything like them. Valora looked down at her arms as if seeing them for the first time. They display my vital signs, my combat readiness. They also make patterns, Jiho said. Patterns that are pleasant to look at, beautiful. But why does that matter? Valora asked. If something is pleasant to look at but serves no purpose, why give it attention? Jiho thought about how to explain. Because beauty itself has value. It makes life more than just survival. It gives us joy. It makes us feel alive in a different way. Valora stared at him. Joy, another word we do not have in Therian. What do you have? Jiho asked. Satisfaction, Valora said. When we win a battle or complete a mission. But joy, I do not know this feeling. They stood in silence for a moment, looking at each other across a cultural gap wider than the space between their worlds. Then Jiho smiled. Would you like to learn? Their meetings became a secret ritual. Every few days, Valora would slip away from the Therian quarters and find Jiho in one of the quiet places on the station. Sometimes it was the observation deck. Sometimes it was a maintenance corridor that nobody used. Once they met in a garden dome maintained by a plant-loving alien species. Jiho brought images from Earth on his datapad. Paintings by human artists, photographs of mountains and oceans, buildings that were designed not just for shelter but for beauty. Valora studied each one with an intensity that reminded Jiho of how she had looked at him during their fight. This structure, Valora said, pointing at a picture of an ancient temple. It is inefficient. Too much empty space, too many decorative elements. That is the point, Jiho explained. It was built to inspire wonder, to make people feel small before something greater than themselves. The inefficiency is intentional. Valora tilted her head, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing in thought. To feel small. But why would anyone want that? Because it reminds us we are part of something bigger, Jiho said. It creates perspective. It makes us think about our place in the universe. Therians know our place, Valora said. We are warriors. We conquer and defend, but what else are you? Jiho asked gently. Valora was quiet for a long time. I do not know, she finally said. I have never asked that question before. During another meeting, Jiho played music for her. He scrolled through different types, watching her reactions. Classical music made her patterns pulse slowly. Rock music made them flash rapidly. But when he played a slow piano piece, something changed in her expression. What is this feeling? Valora asked, touching her chest. Here, something is different, Jiho smiled. That might be emotion.
What does it feel like?
Warm, Valora said slowly. But also sad? Is that the word? Like missing something I never had. Melancholy, Jiho said. That is called melancholy. It is a gentle kind of sadness. Why would anyone create something that makes you sad? Valora asked. Because sometimes we need to feel sad, Jiho said. Sometimes sad music helps us understand our own feelings better. It is cathartic. Valora looked at him with those golden eyes. Humans are very strange. Yes, Jiho agreed, laughing. We absolutely are. But their meetings were not just about Valora learning. Jiho learned too. She taught him about Therian combat philosophy, which was deeper than he expected. Every move in their fighting style had meaning. Every technique was built on centuries of experience and refinement. Combat is honest, Valora explained as she demonstrated a defensive stance. When you fight, you cannot lie. Your body shows your true skill. Your reactions show your true courage. Words can deceive, but combat reveals truth. Jiho watched her move through a series of strikes. It is like a dance, he said. Valora stopped. Dance? Movement for its own sake, Jiho said. Not to fight or to get somewhere, just to move beautifully. Valora considered this. Show me. Jiho felt awkward. He was not a good dancer. But he played a song on his datapad and moved to the music, letting it guide his body. It was nothing like Valora's precise combat forms. It was loose and improvisational. When he stopped, Valora was staring at him. You moved without purpose, she said. Without achieving anything. But it was interesting to watch. The purpose was joy, Jiho said. The achievement was feeling the music. Valora's patterns pulsed in confusion and curiosity. I think I understand. But I also do not understand. That is okay, Jiho said. Understanding takes time. Back in the human quarters, Taeyang noticed the changes in Jiho. His friend spent less time with the crew and more time wandering off alone. He smiled at random moments, lost in thought. Taeyang was not stupid. He knew something was happening. One evening, he cornered Jiho in their shared room. You are meeting her, are you not? The Therian warrior. Jiho considered lying, but knew Taeyang would see through it. Yes, Taeyang sat down heavily. Jiho, my friend, you are either very brave or very stupid. Probably both, Jiho admitted. If the Therians find out, there will be trouble. Big trouble, I know, Jiho said. But Taeyang, you should see her. She is discovering things. Feelings and concepts that her people never taught her. It is like watching someone wake up. Taeyang looked at his friend's face and sighed. You care about her. I think I do, Jiho said quietly. This is complicated. Everything about first contact is complicated. Taeyang was silent for a moment. Then he smiled. Okay, I will cover for you when I can. But Jiho, be careful, please. I will, Jiho promised. In the Therian quarters, changes were happening too. Valora's combat performance had slipped slightly. Not enough that most would notice, but Kiros noticed everything. During training, she hesitated before strikes. Her focus wavered. Once, she stopped mid-practice and stared at the wall for several seconds, lost in thought. The other warriors began to talk. Valora, their best fighter, was acting strange. Some thought she was ill. Others wondered if the human had cursed her somehow. None of them understood the truth. Valora herself did not fully understand. But she knew she was changing. She noticed things now. The way light reflected off metal surfaces. The rhythm of her own breathing. The taste of food, which she had always consumed only for nutrition but now found could be pleasant or unpleasant. The universe was becoming richer, more complex, more interesting. It was also becoming more confusing. These new feelings distracted her, made her question things she had never questioned before. Was combat truly the only thing that mattered? Was strength the only measure of worth? What was the value of beauty, of art, of joy? She was thinking about these questions during a combat practice when she made a mistake. A fellow warrior struck her with a training blade. Not a serious injury, but she had never been hit before. She was too good to be hit. The training hall went silent. All the Therians stared at her. Valora touched the mark on her arm where the blade had connected. It stung, but more than the physical pain, she felt something else. Shame, embarrassment? She was not sure. Kiro stepped onto the practice floor. His face was hard. Again, he commanded. Fight again. Properly this time, Valora took her stance. This time she focused. She pushed away the thoughts about beauty and music and feelings. She became the warrior again. The fight was over in seconds. Her opponent was on the ground, defeated, but Kairos was not satisfied. "See me after training," he said to Valora. "We need to talk." In his office, Kairos stood with his back to her, looking at a star map on the wall. "You are compromised," he said without turning around. "Commander, your performance has declined. Your focus is scattered. You got hit during basic training." He turned to face her. "I warned you about the humans. They're mental tricks, but I did not account for how subtle they might be." Valora said nothing. What could she say? "You are still the best warrior we have," Kairos continued. "But that will not last if you continue on this path. Whatever the human did to you, you must undo it. Forget his words. Forget his tricks. Return to what you were." "Yes, Commander," Valora said automatically. But inside, a small voice asked a question she had never considered before. What if she did not want to return to what she was? What if she wanted to see where this new path led? That night, Valora stood in her empty room and made a decision. She activated her communication device and sent a message to Jiho on a secure channel they had established. 3 words only: "I need you." They met in a maintenance corridor deep in the station. It was cold there and dark except for the glow from Valora's patterns. Jiho could see she was distressed. Her markings pulsed rapidly, showing agitation. "What is wrong?" Jiho asked. Valora paced back and forth. "I am failing. As a warrior, my commander sees it. Others see it. Because of these things you have shown me, these feelings and concepts. They distract me. They make me weak." Jiho felt guilt wash over him. "I am sorry. I did not mean to harm you. But I do not want to go back," Valora said, stopping to face him. "I do not want to return to only knowing combat and duty. These new things, they make me feel alive. Is that the word? Alive?" "Yes," Jiho said softly. "That is the word." "Then I want to stay alive," Valora said. "In this new way. But I do not know if I can be a warrior and also be this, whatever this is." Jiho stepped closer. "Maybe you can be both. Maybe you can be a warrior who also appreciates beauty, who also feels joy and sadness and wonder. Maybe that makes you more complete, not less." Valora looked at him. In the dim light, with her patterns glowing, she looked almost ethereal. "I want to believe that," she said. "But my people will not accept it. Kairos will not accept it." "Then we will find a way together," Jiho said. "I promise you, whatever happens, I will help you." Valora reached out slowly and touched his hand. It was the first time she had initiated physical contact with him. Her skin was warm, and her bioluminescent patterns pulsed gently where they touched. "Thank you," she said, "for showing me there is more than combat, for teaching me these words, for making me feel stunning." They stood there in the darkness, 2 beings from different worlds, holding hands and trying to understand what they were becoming to each other. Neither of them saw the figure watching from the shadows at the end of the corridor. Neither of them knew that Kairos had followed Valora. Neither of them knew that everything was about to change. Kairos emerged from the shadows like a storm. His bioluminescent patterns blazed red with rage. Valora and Jiho jumped apart, but it was too late. He had seen them together. He had seen Valora touch the human with gentleness instead of violence. "Traitor," Kairos said, his voice low and dangerous. "I gave you a direct order. You were forbidden from contact with the humans." Valora stood straight, her training taking over even as her heart raced. "Commander, I can explain." "There is nothing to explain," Kairos said. "I see what is happening. The human has corrupted you, infected you with weak thoughts and useless emotions. You are no longer fit to be called Therian." Jiho stepped forward. "She is not corrupted. She is learning, growing, becoming more than just a warrior." Kairos turned his burning gaze on Jiho. "You think you are helping her, but you are destroying what makes her strong. Warriors do not need art. We do not need music or beauty or feelings. These things make us weak. They make us hesitate. They make us fail." "No," Valora said, and her voice was stronger now. "These things make me more aware, more alive. I am still a warrior, but I am also more than that now." Kairos looked at her with something like disappointment. "You were our finest. The perfect example of what a Therian should be. Now look at you, holding hands with an alien. Speaking of feelings, you have betrayed everything you were trained to be." "Maybe I was trained to be too narrow," Valora said. "Maybe there is more to existence than combat." The words hung in the air. They were more than just a response. They were a challenge to the entire Therian way of life. Kairos's patterns pulsed faster, brighter. When he spoke again, his voice was cold. You have a choice, Valora. Return to Therian quarters. Cut all contact with the humans. Dedicate yourself to purging these contaminating ideas from your mind. If you do this, I will allow you to redeem yourself through combat training and discipline. Valora was silent. Jiho wanted to say something, but he knew this was her decision. Her choice, or? Valora asked quietly. Or you are no longer Therian, Kairos said. You will be exiled. Your rank stripped. Your name erased from our records. You will have no home among your people. This is not a threat. This is Therian law for those who reject our ways. Valora looked at Kairos, the commander she had served for years. Then she looked at Jiho, who represented a whole new universe of possibilities. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed in turmoil, colors shifting rapidly. I cannot go back, she said finally. I cannot pretend I do not know what I know now. I cannot unfeel what I have felt. If learning to see beauty and feel joy makes me not Therian, then I am no longer Therian. Kairos recoiled as if she had struck him. For a moment, real emotion crossed his face, pain, anger, loss. Then his expression hardened into stone. So be it, he said. You are exiled. Do not return to our quarters. Do not speak to other Therians. You are dead to us. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the corridor. Valora stood still, watching him go. Jiho moved to her side. Are you okay? He asked. She did not answer. Could not answer. Everything she had built her identity on was gone. Her rank, her position, her people. In one moment she had lost it all. Jiho contacted Captain Hana immediately. Within an hour, Ambassador Nari had arranged for Valora to stay in the human quarters. The other humans were kind but uncertain. They had never dealt with an exiled alien before. Nobody knew the right thing to say. Valora sat in the room they gave her, staring at the walls. Unlike Therian quarters, this room had decorations, pictures, soft furniture. Things meant to be comfortable and pleasant. Things she was just learning to appreciate. But now all she felt was numb. Ambassador Nari came to visit. I am sorry this happened, she said gently. But you are safe here. We will protect you. Protect me from what? Valora asked. I am no longer in danger. I am nothing now. You are not nothing, Nari said firmly. You are someone who made a difficult choice. That takes great courage. Courage, Valora said bitterly. I have lost everything. My home, my purpose, my identity. What use is courage now? Nari had no answer for that. She left Valora alone with her thoughts. The news of Valora's exile spread quickly through the assembly. Reactions were mixed. Some species saw it as proof of human manipulation and danger. Others found it intriguing. The idea that exposure to human culture could change someone so dramatically was both fascinating and frightening. The Therians demanded that Valora be returned to them for what they called correction. The Assembly Council held emergency sessions. Human membership, which had seemed certain, was now in question. If humans could alter other species so deeply, were they safe to have in the galaxy? Captain Hana called a meeting of the human delegation. This situation is getting worse, she said. Some species are talking about rejecting our membership application. Others want us quarantined, but we did nothing wrong, Taeyang protested. Valora made her own choice, did she? Captain Hana asked. Or did Jiho influence her so much that she felt she had no choice? Jiho felt everyone's eyes on him. I showed her art and music, he said. I answered her questions. I did not force her to do anything. But you changed her, Captain Hana said. Fundamentally changed her. Is that not a kind of violence? The question haunted Jiho. Had he hurt Valora by showing her these new things? Was he responsible for her losing everything? He found Valora on an observation deck late that night. She stood at the window looking out at the stars. Her bioluminescent patterns were dim, barely glowing. I am sorry, Jiho said. This is my fault. If I had not spoken to you, if I had not shown you those things, you would still have your life. Valora was quiet for a long time. Would I? She finally asked. Or would I just still be a weapon? A tool used by others? I am lost now. Confused. I hurt in ways I did not know I could hurt. But Jiho, I am also free. For the first time in my life, I can choose. Choose what? Jiho asked. Valora turned to face him. Everything. What to think. What to feel. Where to go. Who to be. Therians never have these choices. We are what we are trained to be. But now I can be anything. That is terrifying. But it is also the most valuable thing anyone has ever given me. Jiho felt some of the guilt lift. What do you want to be? Valora looked back at the stars. I do not know yet, but I want to find out. Will you help me? Always, Jiho said. They stood together in silence. Outside the window, a ship departed from the station, its lights fading into the darkness. Valora watched it go. Is it normal, she asked, to feel multiple things at once? To be sad about what I lost, but also hopeful about what I might find? To be afraid, but also excited? Very normal, Jiho said. That is part of being alive. Part of being whole. Valora nodded slowly. Then maybe I am becoming whole, even if it hurts. Over the next few days, Valora struggled to adapt. She had panic attacks when she tried to sleep. She could not eat without forcing herself. She kept reaching for weapons that were not there, kept preparing for missions that would never come. Her entire life had been structured around combat and discipline. Without that structure, she felt lost. Taiyang tried to help by teaching her to cook. Food can be more than fuel, he explained, showing her how to combine ingredients. It can be an experience, a pleasure. Valora followed his instructions carefully, treating cooking like combat training. The result was technically correct, but bland. Taiyang tasted it and made a face. You are too precise, he said. Cooking needs feeling, intuition. Try adding what you think will taste good, not what the recipe says. But how do I know what will taste good? Valora asked, frustrated. You guess, Taiyang said. You experiment. You fail sometimes. That is okay. The concept of acceptable failure was foreign to Valora, but she tried. Her next attempt was better. Not perfect, but better. Taiyang smiled. See? You are learning. Captain Hana approached Valora differently. She saw the warrior struggling without purpose and offered her a mission. Help us understand Therian combat doctrine, Hana said. Not to fight them, but to understand them. Your knowledge could prevent conflicts, Valora agreed. It felt good to have a task again, even if it meant analyzing her former people. She worked with human military advisors, explaining Therian strategies and tactics. It was strange to see her people's methods from the outside, to recognize patterns she had never questioned before. Your people are very efficient, one advisor noted, but they lack flexibility. They cannot adapt to unexpected situations. That is because we train for perfection, Valora explained. We learn one correct way to do everything. Deviation is weakness. But life is full of deviation, the advisor said. You cannot prepare for everything. Valora thought about this. She was living proof of that truth. Nothing in her training had prepared her for Jiho's compliment. Nothing had prepared her for feelings and beauty and choice. And yet here she was, surviving, maybe even growing. One evening, Jiho found Valora in the common area trying to draw. She had gotten paper and colored pencils from somewhere and was attempting to sketch the view from the observation deck. The result was technically accurate but lifeless. It is wrong, Valora said, frustrated. The shapes are correct. The proportions are accurate. But it looks dead. Jiho sat beside her. That is because you are drawing what you see. Try drawing what you feel. I do not understand, Valora said. Jiho took a pencil. When you look at the stars, what do you feel? Valora considered. Small, but also connected to something vast. It is peaceful and beautiful. The news about Valora spread beyond the assembly station. On distant worlds, beings heard about the Therian warrior who chose beauty and emotion over duty. Reactions varied wildly across the galaxy. Some species saw it as a cautionary tale about human influence. The Vorith Collective issued warnings about psychological warfare. The Crystalline Minds published papers on the dangers of cultural contamination, but others responded differently. A young Therian warrior stationed on a distant outpost sent a secret message to the human delegation. The message was simple but profound. Is it true? Can we be more than warriors? Ambassador Nari showed the message to Valora. You are starting something, Nari said. Whether you meant to or not, you are becoming a symbol. Valora stared at the message. One message does not mean anything. There are 12 more, Nari said, activating a screen. All from young Therians, all asking questions, all wanting to know more about what you discovered. Valora read through the messages, her patterns pulsing in surprise and something else. Hope, maybe. They will be punished if their commanders find out. Yes, Nari agreed, but they are risking it anyway, because you showed them it is possible to choose a different path. Meanwhile, the Therian High Command issued an official statement. They declared that Valora's exile was proof that human influence was dangerous and destabilizing. They demanded the Assembly take action against humanity for cultural contamination. The Assembly Council scheduled a hearing. Both the Therians and humans would present their cases. The future of human membership in the galactic community would be decided. Captain Hana gathered the human delegation. "This hearing will determine everything," she said. "We need to be strategic, diplomatic. Or we could tell the truth," Jiho said. Everyone looked at him. "What truth?" Ambassador Nari asked. "That we did not manipulate Valora. We offered her new perspectives. She chose to accept them. Choice is not contamination. It is freedom." "That sounds good in theory," Captain Hana said. "But the Assembly is afraid of change. Afraid of what humans represent." "Maybe they should be," Valora said quietly. She had been sitting silently in the corner, but now she stood. "Maybe change is exactly what the galaxy needs." Ambassador Nari studied Valora carefully. "What are you suggesting?" "Let me speak at the hearing," Valora said. "Let me tell the Assembly what I learned. What I chose." In my own words, Captain Hana shook her head. "That could go very wrong." "You are not a diplomat." "No," Valora agreed. "I am a warrior who learned to see beauty. That is exactly why I should speak. I can explain both worlds. I can bridge them." Ambassador Nari was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "All right, you will speak, but we prepare carefully. What you say will matter." They spent days preparing. Valora worked with Nari on what to say and how to say it. Jiho helped her understand human diplomatic approaches. Taeyang made sure she knew how the assembly chambers worked. Even Captain Hana contributed, teaching Valora how to project confidence without appearing aggressive. The night before the hearing, Valora could not sleep. She found Jiho in the observation deck, their usual meeting place. He was looking at the stars as he often did. "Nervous?" he asked without turning around. "Yes," Valora admitted. "I have fought many battles, faced death many times, but speaking before the assembly terrifies me in a different way." Jiho turned to face her. "You will be amazing. You always are." Valora moved closer to him. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed in warm colors. "Jiho, I want to thank you for everything. For seeing me. For showing me there was more to life than I knew. For staying with me even when it became complicated." "You do not need to thank me," Jiho said. "I would not have missed this for anything. Meeting you, watching you discover all these new things, seeing you become who you truly are. It has been an honor." They stood close together, neither quite touching but aware of each other's presence. The air between them felt charged with something unspoken. "When I first saw you," Jiho said softly, "during our fight, I thought you were stunning. I still think that, but now I know it is not just how you look. It is who you are. Your courage, your curiosity, your willingness to risk everything to become more than what others told you to be." Valora's patterns pulsed faster. "I do not have words for what I feel right now," she said. "We do not have words in Therian for this, but I think humans would call it affection, connection, something deeper." "All of those," Jiho said, "and maybe more." Valora reached out and took his hand as she had once before, but this time it felt different. More certain, more real. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I am glad I made my choice. I'm glad I found you." "Me too," Jiho said. The hearing began at mid-cycle the next day. The assembly chamber was packed. Representatives from every member species were present. The gallery was full of observers. News drones hovered, recording everything. Kairos spoke first for the Therians. He stood tall and commanding, his voice filled with righteous anger. "The humans came to us claiming peace and cooperation, but their true weapon is far more dangerous than any blade. They corrupt minds. They infect thoughts. They turn loyal warriors into confused, weak beings who question everything they once knew." He gestured toward Valora, who sat with the human delegation. "That was once our finest warrior. Now look at her. Sitting with aliens, betraying her people. This is what human influence does. It destroys. We demand that the Assembly recognize humans as a psychological threat and reject their membership." When Kiros finished, the chamber was silent. His words carried weight. Many species already feared change. His speech fed that fear. Ambassador Nari spoke next for humanity. She was calm and measured, addressing each of Kairos's points with diplomatic precision. She explained that humans did not manipulate anyone. They simply shared their culture. She argued that exposure to new ideas was not contamination but growth. But words alone were not enough. The assembly moderator called for Valora to speak. Valora walked to the speaking platform. Hundreds of eyes watched her, some with curiosity, some with fear, some with anger. She saw Cairo staring at her with disappointment and disgust. She saw the human delegation looking hopeful but nervous. She saw Jiho giving her an encouraging nod. She took a breath and began. I am Valora. I was born Therian. Raised in the warrior creche. Trained from childhood to fight, to obey, to measure my worth only through combat. For years I was the perfect Therian, the best warrior. I never questioned. I never hesitated. I never thought there could be anything beyond strength and duty. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed slowly as she spoke, creating gentle waves of light. Then I fought a human. During that fight, he said something unexpected. He called me stunning. I did not understand the word. I had never thought about appearance beyond its tactical value. But that word opened something in me. A question. Why did he see beauty where I saw only function? She paused, looking around the chamber. Commander Kiro says the humans corrupted me. He says they made me weak. He says they destroyed who I was. And in a way, he is right. I am not who I was. I changed. But I changed because I chose to change. The humans did not force me. They did not manipulate me. They showed me options I did not know existed. They taught me words for feelings I had never named. They gave me permission to ask what if. Some beings in the audience leaned forward, listening more closely. I learned about art, about music, about beauty and joy and wonder. These things do not make me weaker. They make me complete. I am still a warrior. I still know how to fight. But now I also know why life is worth fighting for. Now I know what I am protecting. Not just territory or honor, but the possibility of experiencing something beautiful, something meaningful. Her voice grew stronger. The real question is not whether humans corrupted me. The question is why my people were so afraid of beauty that they removed it from our lives. Why we were so afraid of emotion that we engineered it away. Why we were so afraid of choice that we never gave it to us. Cairo stood up, his patterns blazing red. You speak heresy. Valora turned to face him directly. No, Commander. I speak truth. A truth you are afraid to hear. The Therian way is not the only way. Strength is not the only virtue. And warriors can also be artists and dreamers and beings who feel joy. She turned back to the assembly. I do not regret my choice. I regret only that I did not make it sooner. Yes, I lost my place among the Therians, but I gained something far more valuable. I gained myself. My own thoughts. My own feelings. My own future to choose. She looked directly at the council members. If you fear humans because they offer choice, then you fear freedom itself. If you reject them because they share their culture, then you reject growth. The galaxy can continue as it always has, with each species locked into their traditions, afraid of change. Or you can accept that contact with humans will challenge you, will make you question, will show you possibilities you never imagined. She paused one final time. That choice is yours, just as my choice was mine. Choose carefully. Valora returned to her seat. The chamber was silent. Then slowly, some beings began making sounds of approval. Not all, not even most, but enough. Enough to show that her words had landed. Jiho reached over and squeezed her hand. That was perfect, he whispered. Valora's patterns pulsed in soft, warm colors. The Assembly Council deliberated for 3 days. During that time, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Valora's speech had been broadcast across hundreds of worlds. Reactions came flooding in. The conservative species doubled down on their fears. The Vorith Collective published statements about the dangers of cultural infiltration. The machine consensus calculated that human influence would destabilize 73% of existing social structures. Several minor species threatened to leave the assembly if humans were admitted. But other responses were unexpected. A delegation of young beings from various species requested permission to meet with the humans. An artist collective from the Melodian world sent a message asking for examples of human art. Most surprisingly, 17 more Therian warriors contacted the human embassy in secret, asking the same question as before. Can we be more than warriors? Valora found herself becoming something she never expected. A symbol, a representative of possibility. Beings who had felt constrained by their own cultures saw her as proof that change was possible. One afternoon, a young Therian appeared at the human quarters. Guard stopped him at the entrance, but he insisted he needed to see Valora. When she came to meet him, she recognized him immediately. His name was Dakar. They had trained together years ago. You should not be here, Valora said. Kairos will punish you for this. Dakar's bioluminescent patterns flickered nervously. I know, but I had to see you, to ask if it is real. If you truly feel these things the humans taught you. Valora studied his face. It is real. More real than anything I felt before. Why do you ask? Dakar looked around nervously, then spoke quietly. Because I think I have felt something similar. During meditation, I noticed patterns in the way stars move. Not strategically, not as navigation markers. I noticed they were beautiful, and I did not know what to do with that feeling. Valora felt her chest tighten. You did not report it? No, Dakar said. Because I knew they would call it corruption. They would say I needed correction. But Valora, I do not want to be corrected. I want to understand what I am feeling. Valora took him to meet Jaiho. Together they explained what they had learned about beauty and wonder and aesthetic appreciation. Dakar listened with the same intense focus he once used for combat training. When they finished, his patterns were pulsing in colors Valora had never seen on a Therian before. Soft blues and greens, colors of calm and curiosity. I am not alone, Dakar said, looking at Valora. There are others, young warriors who have begun to question, who feel things we have no words for, who want something more than combat and duty. How many? Valora asked. Dozens, Dakar said. Maybe more, we hide it. We pretend to be perfect warriors. But inside we are changing. Your speech gave us hope that change is possible. After Dakar left, Valora sat in silence. Jiho sat beside her, waiting for her to process. I did not mean to start a revolution, Valora finally said. Maybe the revolution was already starting, Jiho replied. You just gave it a voice. Ambassador Nari called a meeting. The council is close to a decision, she said. But we need to be prepared for either outcome. If they accept humans, we will need a plan for managing cultural exchange carefully. If they reject us, we need to know what comes next. There is a third possibility, Captain Hana said. Partial acceptance. They might give us limited membership with restrictions. What kind of restrictions? Taeyang asked. Limits on cultural sharing, Hana said. Regulations on what we can teach or show to other species. They might treat our culture like a controlled substance, Valora spoke up. That would be wrong. Culture should not be controlled. Ideas should not be locked away. That is exactly the kind of fear that keeps species from growing. I agree, Nari said, but we might not have a choice. The question is, do we accept limited membership or do we walk away entirely? The debate continued for hours. No one had easy answers. Finally, the council announced they had reached a decision. All delegations were summoned to the assembly chamber. The room was packed again. Everyone wanted to hear the verdict. The council leader, an ancient being from a species that had been in the assembly since its founding, spoke in a voice that resonated through the chamber. The council has considered all evidence and testimony. We have debated the nature of cultural influence and the value of choice. We have weighed the benefits of human membership against the concerns raised by several species. Everyone waited. Jiho found Valora's hand and held it. The council has decided to grant humanity provisional membership in the Galactic Assembly. The chamber erupted. Some species cheered. Others protested. The Therian delegation walked out immediately, Kiros leading them with his patterns blazing red with fury. The council leader raised his appendages for silence. The membership comes with conditions. Humanity will work with assembly mediators to develop guidelines for cultural exchange. They will help address the tensions their presence has created, and they will take responsibility for assisting beings like Valora, who choose to leave their original cultures. Ambassador Nari stood. We accept these conditions. Humanity is honored to join the assembly and committed to building understanding across species. After the session ended, the human delegation celebrated quietly in their quarters. They had won. Not completely, not without restrictions, but they had won. Humanity had a place in the galactic community, but Valora did not celebrate. She stood at the observation deck looking out at space, thinking about Dakar and the other young Therians who were questioning their way of life. Jiho found her there. You should be happy. We won, did we? Valora asked. The Therians will not change their minds. Kiros will double down on tradition. The young warriors who want something different will be punished. My people are fracturing, and I am the cause. You are not the cause, Jiho said firmly. You are the catalyst. There is a difference. The fractures were already there. The questions were already forming. You just made it impossible to ignore them. Valora turned to face him. But what happens now? To Dakar and the others? They cannot stay in the Therian Empire if they admit to feeling these things. But they have no place else to go, Jiho thought for a moment. Then we make a place for them. You know both worlds now. Therian and human, warrior and artist. You could help beings like them bridge those worlds. Valora considered this. A cultural liaison? Someone who helps others navigate change? Exactly, Jiho said. You said you wanted to find your purpose. Maybe this is it. The idea took root in Valora's mind. She had lost her place as a Therian warrior, but maybe she had found something more important. A way to help others find their own paths. Ambassador Nari loved the idea. Within a week, Valora had a new official role. Cultural liaison for transitioning beings. It was a made-up title for a job that had never existed before, but it was perfect. Her first meeting was with Dakar and 3 other young Therians who had requested asylum. They sat in a circle in one of the human common rooms surrounded by art and color and comfortable furniture that was so different from Therian quarters. This will not be easy, Valora told them. You will lose your place among the Therians. You will face judgment and anger from your people. There will be days when you regret your choice, when you miss the simplicity of knowing exactly who you were and what you were supposed to do. The young warriors listened, their patterns pulsing with anxiety. But, Valora continued, you will also discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. You will feel things you never imagined. You will have the freedom to choose your own path. And I will be here to help you navigate that journey. One of them, a female warrior named Kelsa, spoke up. What if we are not strong enough? What if we fail? Valora smiled. Then you fail, and then you try again. That is what freedom means. The right to succeed and the right to fail, both are valuable. Over the following weeks, Valora worked with each of them individually. She taught them about art and music. She helped them understand emotions they had no words for. She showed them how to exist as more than just warriors. But she also made sure they did not abandon their warrior nature entirely. She organized training sessions where they practiced combat forms, but this time they focused on the beauty of movement, rather than just its effectiveness. She taught them to see their fighting styles as a kind of dance. Violence as art. Jiho watched these sessions with fascination. You are creating something new, he told Valora. Not just Therian, not just human, something that combines both. Yes, Valora agreed. That is what I am, what we are. Bridge builders. Maybe that is what the galaxy needs. Not beings who belong to one culture or another, but beings who can move between them. Word of Valora's program spread. Soon, beings from other species began requesting similar help. A young crystalline mind wanted to learn about emotions their species had engineered away. A Melodian artist wanted to understand human visual art, which was so different from their sound-based culture. A Vorith who secretly questioned their collective's rigid structure, sought guidance on independent thought. Valora worked with all of them, building a small community of beings who were learning to exist between worlds. They called themselves the Bridge. Not a formal organization, just a gathering of those who chose growth over comfort. The Therian High Command walked 1 year after the duel that changed everything. Valora stood in the assembly combat arena once again. But this time the circumstances were completely different. The arena was packed. Every species wanted to see what Valora had been working on. For months, she and her group of transitioning beings had been developing something new, something that had never existed before in the galaxy. Jiho sat in the front row with Taiyang and Captain Hana. Ambassador Nari was in the diplomatic section, looking proud. Even some of the species who had initially opposed human membership had come to watch. The lights in the arena dimmed. Valora walked onto the platform wearing modified Therian armor that had been decorated with artistic patterns. Behind her came Dakar, Kelsa, and 3 other former Therians. They moved in formation, but it was different from military precision. It flowed like water. Music began. Human music, but adapted with sounds from different alien species. The rhythm was complex, layered with harmonies that no single culture could have created alone. Valora and her group began to move. They used traditional Therian combat forms but transformed. Every strike became a gesture. Every block became a flourish. They moved together like a single organism, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing in sync with the music, creating waves of light across the platform. Then Jiho joined them. He moved differently, using human dance styles that contrasted with their Therian forms. But somehow it worked. The different styles complemented each other. Where Therian movement was sharp and precise, human movement was fluid and improvisational. Together they created something neither culture could have made alone. Other beings joined next. The Melodian who had learned visual art, the crystalline mind who had discovered emotion, the Vorith who had embraced individual thought. Each brought their own cultural movement style. Each added to the growing performance. What they created was not combat. It was not dance. It was something in between, something new. Violence transformed into beauty. Strength expressed through grace. It was powerful and gentle, precise and spontaneous, individual and unified. The audience watched in silence, transfixed. Some had come expecting to see corrupted warriors. What they saw instead were beings who had found a way to honor their origins while becoming something more. The performance built to a climax. All the performers moved in a complex pattern that required perfect trust and coordination. Their different styles wove together like threads in fabric, creating patterns that shifted and evolved. Colors from their various bioluminescent markings, light projections, and costume elements painted the air with living art. Then, at the peak of the music, they all stopped in perfect stillness. The arena was silent except for the fading echoes of sound. Then slowly, deliberately, Valora and Jiho moved to the center. They faced each other as they had once before during their duel. But now they moved together, their hands nearly touching but never quite making contact, creating shapes and patterns between them. Finally, they stopped with their hands actually touching, palm to palm. Valora's bioluminescent patterns pulsed in warm colors that flowed from her skin to where they connected. It was simple. It was intimate. It was the perfect ending. The arena exploded with sound. Some species had no tradition of applause, but they made sounds of approval in their own ways. Beings jumped to their feet. Even some of the conservative species who had opposed change were visibly moved. In the diplomatic section, Ambassador Nari smiled. This was better than any speech, better than any political maneuvering. This performance showed what cultural exchange could create. Not contamination or corruption, but synthesis, growth. After the performance, there was a reception in one of the assembly's common areas. Beings from different species approached the performers, asking questions, offering congratulations, requesting to learn more. Valora found herself surrounded by young beings from various species who wanted to know how they too could bridge their cultures. She answered each question patiently, her patterns glowing with confidence and joy. At one point, she noticed a figure standing apart from the crowd, a Therian warrior young wearing traditional armor. He watched her with an expression she recognized. Curiosity mixed with fear, the look of someone who wanted something but was afraid to reach for it. Valora excused herself and approached him. "What is your name?" she asked gently. The warrior's patterns flickered nervously. "Torak, I serve under Commander Kiros." "Then you should not be here," Valora said. "Kiros forbids contact with exiles like me." "I know," Torak said. "But I watched your performance. I saw what you created, and I realized something I have been trying not to think about for months. I do not want to only be a warrior. I want to be what you are, complete." Valora felt her patterns pulse with understanding. "It will not be easy." "I know," Torak said. "But I watched you tonight moving with such grace and power together. I want that. Not just the movement, the connection, the purpose beyond combat, the wholeness," Valora smiled. "Then you know where to find me. When you are ready to choose, I will be here to help." Torak nodded and disappeared into the crowd. Valora watched him go, wondering if he would have the courage to follow through. She hoped he would, but she knew the choice had to be his. Later that night, after the celebration had ended and the crowds had dispersed, Valora and Jiho found themselves back at their usual observation deck. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and beautiful. "You were amazing tonight," Jiho said. "Truly stunning." Valora laughed, a sound that had become natural to her over the past year. That word again. "The one that started all of this. Do you regret it?" Jiho asked. If you could go back to that moment in the arena, knowing everything that would happen, would you still drop your sword? Valora thought about the question seriously. She thought about everything she had lost. Her place among the Therians, her certainty, her simple, structured life. Then she thought about everything she had gained. Choice, wonder, the ability to feel joy and create beauty, the connections she had made, the being she had helped, Jiho. Yes, she said firmly, without hesitation. That moment of confusion, when I did not understand what you meant, that was the moment I started becoming who I truly am. Not who I was trained to be, who I actually am. Jiho took her hand. They had grown comfortable with physical contact over the months. Their different biologies did not matter. Connection transcended such things. What happens next? Jiho asked. We have achieved so much. The bridge is growing. Human membership is secure. What do we do now? Valora squeezed his hand. We keep going. There are still beings out there trapped by their cultures. Still young Therians questioning in secret. Still species who have never considered that they could be more than what they were raised to be. We help them find their way. Together? Jiho asked. Together, Valora confirmed. You showed me that beauty and wonder exist. Now we show others. We prove that growth does not mean losing yourself. It means finding more of yourself. They stood in comfortable silence, looking out at the galaxy they were helping to transform. Neither of them knew exactly what challenges lay ahead. The Therian Empire was still resistant to change. Other conservative species watched humanity with suspicion. There would be setbacks and difficulties, but there would also be moments of breakthrough. More beings finding their way to the bridge, more cultures opening to new possibilities, more young warriors learning they could be artists, more artists learning they could be warriors, more beings discovering they could be complete. A notification appeared on Jiho's communication device. He checked it and smiled. Ambassador Nari has a new assignment for us. There is a species called the Architects who have requested cultural exchange. They are pure logicians who have never encountered the concept of art. Valora's patterns pulsed with excitement. That sounds impossible. Exactly, Jiho said, grinning. Which makes it perfect for us. Are you ready? Valora looked at him. She remembered the warrior she had been. Certain, narrow, powerful but incomplete. Then she thought about who she was now. Uncertain sometimes. Always learning. But whole. Truly whole. I am ready, she said, for whatever comes next. They left the observation deck together, walking side by side toward their next mission. Behind them, through the window, the stars shone bright and beautiful. Ahead of them, the galaxy waited with infinite possibilities. In the Therian homeworld, deep in a warrior training facility, a young recruit sat alone in meditation. She was supposed to be clearing her mind for combat. Instead, she found herself noticing how light filtered through crystal formations in the rock walls. Found herself thinking the patterns were beautiful. Found herself wondering if there might be more to existence than duty and discipline. She did not know about Valora yet. Did not know about the bridge or the humans or the possibilities that existed beyond the warrior path. But she felt something stirring in her. A question forming that she did not yet have words for. Somewhere, somehow, she would find those words. She would find her way to her own moment of choice. That was the future Valora and Jiho were building. Not one where everyone had to choose the same path, but one where everyone knew they had a choice at all. On the assembly station, in a small room that served as the bridge's unofficial headquarters, Valora and Jiho prepared for their journey to